Tuku atu ki arere amanu e tū ki runga, tū ki raro, tū ki whea, tū ka hakuputaina ki te whai au, ki te ao maramahau mi e. Hui e, taiki e. This week, on the Hui.
It's the bill that could change Aotearoa.
No one with a penis should be allowed into a woman's toilet.
Will Shaman Matthews' rights be taken away?
This bill is not only stripping trans women and trans men of standard healthcare rights, but also having the right to just walk in a public space and being accepted in society.
Can't people just be who they want to be?
What do you mean, who they want to be?
If they feel like they're born in the wrong body.
But what does that mean?
They identify more with being a wahine.
But how can they identify as being a wahine if they're not one?
And we celebrate the 150th anniversary of Hukarere Girls College.
What I loved about being at Hukarere was the fact that we could remain and continue to be Anglicans, and good Anglicans at that, or at least in my time. But we could also grow and develop ourselves as Maldi women.
Te hunga kua karangahi ara kia haere atu kia koko urira ua koko ko te haramai. Haere. Tātou kei te hāhātanga o te whenua ti he wa mauri ora, and welcome back to the Hui. At 11 years old, Shaman Matthews made a life-changing decision. Born a male, she wanted to fully transition into becoming a female. However, the journey ahead would be filled with untold challenges. Shaman shares her story with reporter John Boynton.
There are only two genders, male and female.
It's the issue dividing nations.
This is the right wing. This is the bigotry.
And families.
It's not about if you care or not, it's how do you feel?
How do I feel?
Mum, do you feel safe or not safe? That's the question.
Now, Aotearoa must decide who has rights and who doesn't.
No one with a penis should be allowed into a woman's toilet.
Do you remember the first time you were mistaken or someone called you a wahine or a little girl?
I think it was about 7, the first time where someone said she instead of he.
What was it like to have that?
I was excited, yeah, and I felt like that was who I am.
From a young age, Shaman Matthews knew who she was. But growing up transgender in Narua Wahia in the late 90s was lonely.
Being brought up in this kind of neighbourhood, in this kind of town, you know, it was unheard of being transgender. Dad found it a bit difficult to kind of accept that. I decided about 11 years old that I wanted to do the full-time transition.
What did your whānau make of it?
I think it was a huge shock. It was taboo, you know, it wasn't something that was common, and especially with someone so young, they were kind of blaming themselves, you know, and they were looking at why. Unfortunately, I did have to leave home due to how my parents reacted. I packed all my bags and I actually took my dad's stash, which was a bit of money, and I got on a bus and I went to Tauranga.
She set out to find her older sister who had moved there.
I thought I could just take my sister's photo and show it to somebody and say, like, do you know my sister? And I thought that I'd be able to find her immediately, but unfortunately that wasn't the case for me. I got to Tauranga and I found myself on the street.
11 years old?
11 years old, yeah.
How long were you on the street for?
I guess on and off the streets for about 3 or 4 years. I was doing things to make sure that I could house myself, which some things I'm not proud of, but, you know, at the time it was to survive. I was fighting to survive. I was doing burglaries, I was stealing cars and also taking drugs. So take me out of the reality world. And there was fraud. By the time I was 15 years old, I was advanced criminal by then.
By now, Shaman was living as a female.
I did prostitution. Back then, prostitution was illegal. It was soliciting. When anyone turns to that kind of lifestyle, they're looking for someone who can either relate or accept them. And when you're doing a transaction like that, you don't just feel accepted, you feel empowered. Not only is someone giving you what I would say at the time, love and affection, they're also giving you a cash transaction.
Did you put any blame on your parents? Because a lot of people will be thinking, how can you let your 11-year-old child go out on the road and do what they want?
I don't blame my parents because it was my choice, you know. I always knew at any point I could have gone home. But unfortunately, I didn't feel that they would have welcomed me back in the skin that I was in.
Shaman's lifestyle finally caught up with her.
I ended up going to court, and because I had so many different aliases, I was actually going to be sentenced to prison. I ended up telling the police who I really was. I'm only 15, and the case was actually thrown out, and my parents were ordered to the Tauranga District Court. And I ended up back in my parents' care. But that was also only for a short amount of time. I ended up in Auckland in the red light district. That kind of life continued for me for a long time. I was trying to get a normal job, but what I could make in a normal job in a week, I could make that in a day.
In the bright lights of K Road, she discovered cabaret and took her place on the stage. It was in that environment Shaman found support in the transgender community.
Did you feel like you were living your best life as a wahine?
I did, because that was where I felt most accepted. By that time, I felt I was a really full-time woman. I was living authentically as my authentic self, so yeah, it's been a very long journey to get to where I am today.
At 37, it's taken a lifetime for Shaman to be recognised as a wahine. She's in a stable relationship and is a mum.
I've been very fortunate to have love and found love and be in a man's presence, and for someone to be proud to hold my hand and walk in a public space for me. My life is completely different. I'm now a mum, I'm a grandma. It means the world to me, absolutely.
Coming up, Shaman returns home, but will her whānau accept her?
You choose that road, you walk that road.
And the law that may change Aotearoa.
Why should I be forced to call men women? Why should I be forced?
Hoki mai anō e tā marama, ko te hui tēnei e mihi atu nei. Shaman Matthews' decision to transition into a wahine as a child tore her whānau apart. She's now returned home, but all these years later, does her whānau accept her for who she is? Here's part 2 of John Boynton's report.
After years of being estranged, Shaman Matthews has started to reconnect with her whānau back home in Naruawahia.
Did you miss your mum?
I did, yeah, I did.
Her mum Shona is battling a number of health conditions.
What has it meant to have her back?
Good, good, because she's our baby. She's home. You know, like I can ring her or she can ring me when I need her or something.
Was it hard not having your daughter there for those years?
No, it wasn't. Because it was a road that she chose. And you choose that road, you walk that road.
What was it like finding out that she was on the streets doing prostitution?
Yeah. That was a nightmare. Oh, well, you want to do what you want to do. You get out there to that big open world and see what happens.
Did you carry any responsibility as a parent for
Shaman?
For what she went through?
Not at the beginning, because it was her choice. I'm really sorry, but I'm hard.
Yeah.
I'm hard. So if you want to go and play, you go and play those games. When you want to settle, then you come back.
Coming home has been complicated.
It's definitely challenging at times, but, you know, me and my mum, we're just alike. We're very similar. I guess that's why we do sometimes butt heads.
For Shaman, the ability to be authentically seen has been hard won. But is this all about to unravel?
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
The debate on transgender rights is raging overseas.
The terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
And the division has now landed on our shores.
There is 23,000 plus signatures here. It's a petition that asks that women be clearly defined in legislation as adult male and female. Let the games begin and the discussion begin.
New Zealand First is introducing a controversial new members' bill. It means trans women will not fit the definition of a woman under law, and Shaman can't fully live her authentic life.
This bill is not only stripping trans women and trans men of standard healthcare rights, but also having the right to just walk in a public space and being accepted in society.
But there is strong support for the bill. And I've come to Australia to meet one of its most vocal advocates.
Michelle Aotearoa is Maldi, but has called Australia home for the last 30 years. In 2019, she co-founded Women's Action Group, a group of rural women who are concerned about the erosion of women's rights. But she's drawn the ire of the trans community, who says she and her group is spreading trans hate and misinformation.
We see how this contamination is sweeping through white middle class. Groups of girls are suddenly coming out as non-binary or boys.
She doesn't want us to reveal her location because she fears for her safety. She says she's received death threats, so we're meeting her today at a secret location.
No one knows what a woman is anymore. Everyone's suddenly developed amnesia. I am wahine. I'm wahine Māori. That's all it is. It's not complex.
Can't people just be who they want to be?
What do you mean, who they want to be?
If they feel like they're born in the wrong body.
But what does that mean?
They identify more with being a wahine.
But how can they identify as being a wahine if they're not one?
Michelle's not alone. Other high-profile anti-trans advocates include Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling.
She's brilliant. Yeah, I'm really, really glad that J.K. Rowling has stepped forward on this. Absolute admiration for J.K. Rowling.
And in Aotearoa, Posey Parker, who sparked a violent protest when she came to Auckland.
Oh, she's tenacious.
The word TERF.
Oh, yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Oh, yes, someone who actually acknowledges reality. So I believe that the acronym is Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, but everyone gets labelled a TERF if you actually acknowledge reality, so it's lost its meaning completely. We've been called all kinds of things, John. Bitch, slut, witch, Nazi, TERF, everything but a wahine, interestingly. And all we call trans women are men. And I don't think being a man is a bad thing.
Michelle has organised high-profile protests in Melbourne.
You barely survived the first colonisation. This, in our opinion, is the second, and we will not lie down!
I know you didn't want us to reveal where you live, your location, because of your safety.
Right. And yeah, it's because of the unhinged, insane trans rights activists and all the threats that we've received. You know, it's an abomination the way that they behave.
Does that come with the territory?
It seems to. You know, we don't ask for it. We certainly don't. We don't believe we deserve it. But that just goes to show we must be saying something right.
What are your takes on trans people in women's bathrooms?
Oh, yeah. Men in women's bathroom, absolutely not.
Trans women in sports?
Oh, yeah.
In women's sports?
That's cheating. And you'll find that a lot of those men have never been successful in men's sports.
Should trans people be allowed to serve in the army for their country?
I do not think the taxpayer should be paying for plastic surgery for these men in the armed services because they feel that they're women. I don't think that the taxpayer should pay for that.
They're taxpayers as well, there's that argument.
Yeah, sure, but so is everyone else.
Michelle believes teaching kids about gender diversity is to blame for the rise in children believing they're born in the wrong bodies.
That's a very new thing in my generation and even in my grandmother's and so forth. You know, there's nothing in our culture, and there's no carvings to even, you know, prove that we believed that any of our tamariki were born in wrong bodies.
And yes, I have to say it, I guess, the first transsexual in New Zealand to be standing in this House of Parliament, not only in New Zealand, ladies and gentlemen, but also in the world. This is a historic moment.
What do you make of a trans leader like Georgina Bayer, who is very much out there and the first trans woman to be an MP? She had quite a prominent life and role.
Yeah, he did. Look, it doesn't matter whether it's Georgina, it doesn't matter which man it is. The only qualifier you need to be a trans woman is to be a man.
Do you takahi on someone's mana, though, if you don't? You keep calling people he.
But I'm entitled to my own, you know, I'm entitled to my own freedom of speech, my own freedom of belief, and I will always exercise that.
Do you think your words carry harm?
I don't know. I don't know. How many men who think they're women have been harmed since we've been talking? You know, words don't actually harm. You know, what harms is physical violence.
They do harm.
Well, I think physical violence harms. So when we're on the steps of Parliament and they are trying to assault us, you know, that is harmful. Why should I be forced to call men women? Why should I be forced?
Do you have any sympathy for the trans community when it comes to this kind of a bill and the impacts they believe it could have on them?
Again, it's a different premise. They start at, we men are women. I start at, well, no, you're not. You can't be. I don't see how it can harm them because they are men.
It's really uneducated, and most ladies that have had those kind of opinions, most of them haven't actually had an encounter or had a sit down and met a trans woman and gotten to actually know what we're about and who we are.
But she has major concerns about how the gender bill might impact on her and her loved ones.
I feel like this bill will give uneducated people a different outlook on who I really am as a female and who I identify myself as. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional because, yeah, it will definitely take away everything that I have worked all my life so hard to get to.
You hear the arguments often come down to transgender women like Shaman make women feel unsafe.
I don't know, because I think it's different when they're your own. I don't care. But she's got a lot of family here and they wouldn't care either.
Yeah.
You know, but in that open world, I don't know.
Answer the question, Mum. Do you feel unsafe? Just stick to the question about what's been asked. It's not about if you care or not. It's how do you feel?
How do I feel?
Are you proud of your daughter?
For what she does or for what she is?
For everything, you know. For who she is.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. She doesn't really hear this from me often. I don't really share those things, but yes, I am.
What is it like for you to hear your mum say that.
It's not something that my mum often says, but it's beautiful. And I know that she means it wholeheartedly.
What would the 11-year-old shaman make of the woman sitting here today?
I would hope that she would be proud, and I would say to the 11-year-old me that it's all going to be worth it, and keep going. Don't let anybody's opinion stop you from being the amazing person that you're capable of being.
Taroko I Hoana e Hoama. He whakamaharatanga ara a ngā kōhine omua o Hukarere. We remember and celebrate Hukarere Māori Girls College after its 150th anniversary. Next. Kia u ki te pai. Hukarere Māori Girls College held its 150th anniversary in the weekend in the Hawke's Bay. I sat down with a couple of old girls from the 1960s and 1970s at the kura to talk about the history of Hukarere and their aspirations for its future. E aku mārei kura tēnā kura, Lady Tureiti, Whai Elizabeth, tēnā kura. Thank you both for your time. Hukarere. What is your first memory of being at Hukarere Māori Girls College?
Well, I was in the 70s, 1970, after Hukarere had closed as a college. And we were the first intake to go as a hostel, as hostel members of Hukarere, to Napier Girls High School. So that was a pretty important cohort, really, because it was a very different kura, if you like, for Hukarere and for the board and for the teachers and all of those who had invested so much of themselves and their time into creating a kura for the girls of Hukarere.
Whai Elizabeth, what was your first memory of Hukarere?
Well, my first memory has to be the journey up to Hukarere, because we came from Otautahi. We came from a little place called Kokorarata, and I had to catch a ferry to get to Wellington, all 12 and a half years of age, and then catch the rail car to Napier, which was quite a big journey, and we did it on our own.
At 12 and a half years of age?
Yes, so it was quite good coming up on the train with a lot of Te Aote boys.
We'll get into that. Let's not bury the lead just yet. What did you make of it, Lady Tureiti? Because it was a force to be reckoned with in its heyday.
Well, it was. A lot of us were rural girls. You know, we came from the farms, and so it was a very big transition for many of us. But at the same time, it opened doors into a whole world that we had not been exposed to previously. But what I loved about being at Hukarere was the fact that we could remain and continue to be Anglicans, and good Anglicans at that, or at least in my time. But we could also grow and develop ourselves as Māori women, because there was very little reo around at that time. And in fact, a lot of the schools, and particularly the native schools of the time, were all about assimilation and assimilating us into Pākehā way of thinking and doing. And this school, standing up in the midst of it all, was saying, no, it's important to be who you are. It's your culture is important, your reo is important, and knowing who you are and where you belong is important.
Was there a sense of responsibility, Liz, in coming to Hukarere, that there were some expectations placed upon you?
There was, because you got these scholarships that provided you to go to this wonderful school that we'd heard about. And the expectation was, I was very lucky because I had a twin sister. But other than that, we didn't know anybody at that school. To be there and to go through that, first come down the driveway, see the chapel, and then walk into the main thoroughfare was pretty overwhelming. Suddenly you knew you were in a place of significance. Well, that's how I felt, and I still feel it today.
You mentioned something about Te Aote boys. Whai Elizabeth?
Oh, well, yes.
Was that a thing?
There was a number
As a Te Aote boy?
There's a number of stories. That wasn't in our curriculum, though. That was not in our curriculum. But yes, well, we did play tennis with them, and they used to have what you call a Blossom Festival in Hastings, where the two schools met in the middle, and where one went off on one side or the other, or how we met.
15 love?
Oh,
Indeed.
tennis was fantastic.
What's it like to be here? 150 years. It's a tremendous achievement. When you think about all that we're dealing with at the moment, what do you think it means, not just being here at the anniversary, but for the future of Māori education?
Yes, well, we are in turbulent times at the moment with our coalition government, who don't see the worth of what it means to be Māori, what it means to honour Te Tiriti o Waitangi, or what it means in terms of Māori mana motuhake or tino rangatiratanga, and are vastly in opposition to everything we stand for and who we are, which really is a huge backward step for all of us, but for our schools, our Māori schools in particular, and for Hukarere, and what the Hukarere has been through over the last 150 years. I mean, she has been through so many challenges and so many disasters that could have actually stopped anything or stopped anyone. And there they are, still standing today. And it was said that Hukarere is the only Anglican girls' school that still remains today. So that's a huge feat. But my heart goes out to all the old girls who have kept this dream alive, and the moe moe ia that our women have an important part to play in the fabric of Aotearoa, but also in the leadership of our country.
Tēnā koe. Whai Elizabeth?
Well, kia au ki te pai means an awful lot to all of us. We've been hearing it in our music, we've been hearing it in our karakia, we've been hearing it just by conversation, and the value of kia au ki te pai, holding on to what we need and what we believe in, has been perhaps the most daring thing that I think about when I come. It was very overwhelming with the number of old girls that have attended, but the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and what we've heard from those women today gives me a huge amount of confidence. They know who they are, they know their identity, and we've just got to, and they've got to feel that they've got to be the leaders. They have to be the leaders today. Yeah, and we've got to back them up.
Indeed.
E ko marei kura tēnā kōrua. Kia au ki te pai, whakatangata kia kai. Tēnā kōrua. Our thanks to all of Hukarere for today's Hui. Join us next week for another. Until then, kia mau ki te turanga o taputapu a te haumi e, hui e, tae ki e.
Nā te puna whakatongarewa, te hui, i tautoko.